On this week's Hot List, status report. Just where is the planned capital relocation to East Kalimantan? And who's going there first? Sanj Trans, the new operator of the Miss Universe Indonesia event, says it's for women only. And Speakeasy, a new survey says Singapore has the best English speakers in Asia. Guess where we are on the list? Hello and welcome. This is Hot Indonesia. I'm Dalton Tanonaka in Jakarta. Let's get to it. Here are my co-hosts, Linda Ibrahim, writer, business consultant, and regional columnist, and Karenina Sunny, entrepreneur, Miss Indonesia 2009, and happy millennial. Hot topic number one, status report. The announcement came nearly 4 years ago that Indonesia's capital city would be relocated 1,000 kilometers or 620 miles to the northeast in East Kalimantan. President Joko Widodo visited the site this past week and said the goal is to hold Independence Day festivities there in August 2024. Individual ministries would move one by one, and 47 apartment towers will be built for civil servants and military personnel. You know, despite my initial skepticism, we have talked about this before, it appears construction is going well. It's actually going to happen and the move is on track. Linda, surprised and or pleased with the progress?
Not entirely surprised, because Jokowi has to make it happen while he's still in power. He's meant it to be, I think, his largest legacy. If he doesn't do it until 2024, there's no telling who's going to win in 2024. Moreover, though, I find it very interesting that of all the milestones that he could have picked, he picked the presidential palace for the ceremony of Independence Day to be like the milestone that it's going to happen. Because I'm a very practical person. The way I see, if a city is already ready to be inhabited, is the infrastructure instead of just like a ceremonial monumental place.
Symbolic.
Symbolic, which is very Indonesian and a very Jokowi as well. So I'm not worried at all if it's going to happen. I think it will happen. He will have to make it happen. But the bigger question is, after that, is it going to be ready even when PDIP is no longer in power after 2024, which might happen? Yeah,
and would any new administration stop it? That's an interesting question. It'd be crazy if they did, but that's another topic. Now, It's expected, of course, that Jakarta will remain the commercial and financial center of the country, much like New York in the U.S. And I've talked to some ambassadors. Foreign embassies are kind of right now deciding what to do, whether to open an office there or stay here because the population is here and most of the expats. Nina, to me, the impact, though, on public access to lawmakers is the big point and the question.
Public access.
Yeah, I mean, the citizens have to have access to their lawmakers.
Right. Well, I have so many questions around this.
We all do.
Yes. Like, what was the thinking in the first place of moving it to Kalimantan?
Well, congestion. And it's center of the country geographically.
And environmental concern as well, because Jakarta has been sinking.
But then there's the environmental control or concerns about the jungle and impact on.
But I think that underweigh the sinking of Jakarta at an alarming rate.
So they think that for all the legislator and the capital being Jakarta is at risk because it's sinking.
It's too inundated.
Yeah, that's years and years away. But the point is to make it more accessible to most of the country because of the geographic center.
That as well.
Oh, I see. Okay.
But most of the work and people who have business with lawmakers are in the capital city now. So that my question is, will it hurt?
I mean, because if we're comparing it to America, where you have New York and D.C., they're actually geographically a lot closer together and more accessible to each other than the way Jakarta and Kalimantan would be.
Well, it's a 2-hour flight to Balikpapan, and it's a 1-hour trip from New York to D.C. People take the train. Not that far, but a lot less affordable.
Yeah.
Yes. And also, I mean, it does matter whether or not it's a 1-hour train ride, which, ground transportation is always more accessible and easier to manage,
Yeah.
What if the weather is that bad that you can't fly, and there's
Yeah.
going to be like a parliamentary meeting
Yeah.
session or whatever, going
Yeah.
on. A good example, I think, what Malaysia did, with Putrajaya, because I've been to Putrajaya. It's not that far from KL, and it's easy to reach. Australia, I think, as well. It's going to be interesting. You know what? I've been looking at the chatter on the social media is all of this wondering from the social servant, the civil servants, whether or not they're going to move.
Yeah.
Because some of them are even considering leaving the service altogether because
Because of their
they've got-
family
yeah,
and-
right.
yeah.
And then they have to like uproot
Yeah.
the livelihood. What's going to happen to my children's schooling?
Yeah. And possibly the businesses that they own, not personally, but their families.
Yeah.
If they have
Yeah.
spouses that work or their in-laws or whatever. And so uprooting that whole system and moving everyone means relocating all of the businesses and things that they have as
Yeah.
well. I think, as Linda pointed out, for the infrastructure, is it just the palace? Is it just the
Yeah.
living quarters of the social servants and the ministers? Or is everything that involves in the infrastructure as well going to be running and in place, and how long will that take, like, realistically?
Okay, so all the construction aside, my point and my question to you was, will it hurt the people that they're supposed to serve? If I wanted to see my lawmaker of my district, I now have to go.
I think the accessibility, like I pointed out before, and as Linda also mentioned, ground transportation just makes it more accessible and feasible. I think it's a good concept, but in reality, the technicalities of it and the logistics of it is not so practical.
Yeah, okay, now it's a huge public works project,
Yes.
which is one reason you do it, because it creates jobs, $32 billion, and
Yeah.
business opportunities in the area. Linda, any concerns do you have that it could turn out like it did in Myanmar? Naypyidaw to the north,
Yeah.
it's a ghost town except when parliament is in session.
I am very much afraid of that because Indonesia, previous administrations all left behind something that was not finished, and the new administration didn't think it was a good enough of a project to continue. Even the ones that actually got completed, like for national sports competition, PON. All of this construction in Kalimantan, I saw them, they're gorgeous, and then they got used for just that one
One
thing,
event,
and
yeah.
it was never used again by the public, even for the athletes of that particular province. So I'm very afraid, that this might turn to be
White elephant?
yeah.
But they're building also sports facilities in the capital, 12 soccer stadiums. The national team is supposed to train there.
No.
It's supposed to be a whole...
Right,
Yeah.
but if it doesn't get completed and whoever in the power next time doesn't think it's such a good idea after all, that has happened. Indonesia has this, we call it
Could it be
gengsi.
converted to something else if it's not?
I don't
if it
think
does-
so.
I
It's
don't
so
think so.
huge.
Yeah.
I mean, the next administration would have to continue it. It would be a huge uproar after spending so much money.
Indonesia has this, the political elite in Indonesia has this prestige, we call it gengsi. If it's not initiated by me, do I really want to continue it? Because I can't really claim it. So it's
It's
a
not
matter
my
of,
legacy.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, in the end, I think the average citizen will be impacted, but not as much as we might think, because there will likely be representative offices here. They could come here if they can't go to East Kalimantan. A lot of official paperwork can be done online. I mean, yeah, I know
Hopefully.
yeah, hopefully, and then the people most affected. And last point, protesters. Because they can't go there. It's easier to go in Sanayan and protest than it is to East
Well, it just
Kalimantan.
happened.
If you have
earlier this
representative
week.
offices, then you're just
Yeah,
going to
it'll be a
protest
small
in
one
front
then.
of those.
Okay. A legacy to Jokowi. Hot Indo will continue shortly with Sans Trans, why Miss Indonesia must be all woman. Come join the fun at the Mr. Moonlight Show in the Mo Bar at the Mandarin Oriental, Jakarta. You'll enjoy 5-star entertainment sponsored by Tatler Indonesia, the Indonesia Channel, 1619 Cigars, and Bali High Beer. Wednesday, March 15th from 8 p.m. with no entrance fee. Call the hotel for reservations and come on down.
I love Indonesia. I love the food. Yummy. Wow. I'm gonna hunt for ingredients. Now I'm ready to cook. Let's go to the kitchen. It's done. Let's meet to eat.
Foodiepedia on the Indonesia Channel.
Hi, I'm Handi Kurniawan and I'm watching the Indonesia channel in Hong Kong.
Hi, I'm Rory He. You're watching the Indonesia Channel, the home of good sport.
I'm Trần Minh Ngân of VCCN Net Việt in Hanoi.
I'm Thairat Thumya of Thailand's Thairat TV in Bangkok.
I'm Monica Sambodet from the National Television of Cambodia in Phnom Penh.
I'm Raymond Go of Malaysia's TV3 in Kuala Lumpur.
I'm Glenda Chong of Singapore's Channel News Asia.
I'm Raisa Chantami of the Indonesia Channel at the ASEAN Secretariat in Jakarta.
This is your weekly look into the dynamic Southeast Asia region.
ASEAN Today on the Indonesia Channel.
The Best of Bali takes viewers on a special guided tour to the treasures of the island of the gods.
Well, the romantic dinner is beautiful.
The Best of Bali, only on the Indonesia Channel.
You're watching Hot Indonesia with Linda, Nina, and me. Here's hot topic number 2, sans trans. The new owner of the Miss Universe event in Indonesia is making waves with initial statements on eligibility going forward. The founder of Capella Swastika Kardia, Poppy Capella, said on social media that the pageant is open only to those registered as women on their national ID cards or passports. That doesn't address those who have completed a gender change, but organizers say rules will follow, quote, Indonesian customs and norms. And thanks to the website Coconuts Jakarta for bringing our attention to this story. You know, Nina, obviously to you first, as a former Miss Indonesia, you know, how big an issue is this? And would you be against competing against trans women?
Well, I wouldn't be surprised if they were actually starting to be included in the pageants, because the owner of Miss Universe now is actually a trans woman from Thailand.
Sure.
So it wouldn't surprise me at all if that's the direction.
And it's happened already.
That is, yeah,
in
in
other
Spain.
countries.
Yeah, I think 2018. The first contestant was a trans woman from Spain. But I was going to say, back in the day, when I was Miss Indonesia, Miss World had very strict stipulations, which was also no plastic surgery. So you couldn't have any jobs done on your face or on any other part of your
sex reassignment surgery
of your body. But then I think now, as they progressed or it's moving forward, I think now they're allowing, because so many contestants were being turned down, because especially the ones from South America, and then I think now across Asia it's also becoming more common to have a nose job or have your a boob job. But so I wouldn't be surprised if things now start moving, things that were kind of closed-minded to before, things are now progressing to the way that the world is. moving today.
But
I wouldn't be surprised at all if that was the case, that they would be allowed to compete.
But you wouldn't feel against it personally? Competing against someone?
I mean, in
If
the
you
title,
knew Miss
in the
So-and-so.
title itself, it says beauty pageant. It doesn't say beautiful woman pageant. So I guess beauty is in the eye of the beholder, and whoever is judging, like who deems to be beautiful, you know, regardless of their gender. But
Okay, so you have no problems with it. Now, transgenders, as we know, has been part of Indonesian culture, and some celebrate it, such as the artist Dorcha, which we talked about,
And we have
passed away last year,
We
right?
have Miss Waria beauty pageant.
Yeah,
Just for
its
the
own
trans
competition. So, Linda, I'm not sure if any have or are considering entering Miss Universe Indonesia now, but what's your position?
Oh, I am probably falling onto the liberal side of Indonesians, which is very few. I'm okay with how you identify yourself, and if you identify as a woman and you're a trans woman, for me it's fine. However, majority of Indonesians are not like that. Across all native groups and all religions in Indonesia, still very conservative about how we define men and women. And majority of Indonesians are still even struggling with the concept of sexual orientation, let alone sex and gender identification. You know, like you're assigned male, then you're male and you should be attracted to women, to female. And that's the way Indonesians see it. Why we have the Miss Waria contest, the Miss Trans Women contest, it's been going on for years, because then that's the group on its own. So most Indonesians will look at it, okay, they want to do it within their own community. I have no problem with that. But once that
goes internationally, representing
into what's
Indonesia.
classically defined as a female in Indonesia, and there will be backlash.
Okay, so the larger issue, where would you say Indonesia is in terms of overall acceptance of trans and LGBTQ?
I mean, all
Have
the
we gone
research
backwards?
say- No, we're not going backwards. We're very low, because, like I said,
Baby
once
steps
you
forward.
once you mix it, and that becomes a problem. Like the Miss Waria, the Miss Trans, it's okay because that's just among trans. But once you have a trans woman identifying as a woman competing with other women, that's when Indonesian will have problems.
I think maybe Indonesia as a whole would feel like this doesn't represent us
Right,
as a whole. So
right.
maybe they wouldn't be as ready to receive it, because they wouldn't feel that this contestant is going to the international stage representing us as a whole, where the majority doesn't feel like that's who we identify as.
Right, and to your point earlier, though, to me, this is not like sports, where a transgender male, going into a female would have an unfair advantage. No doubt about it.
True.
This is a pretty much a beauty pageant, as you said. So you're judged on your exterior, right? So there should be no problems.
But however, that's how Indonesians box themselves to be in. You know, I mean, this is a female should be this, and from what, and then so it goes to the origin. I mean,
so it's not like you put 12 people on a stage and you don't know who's had the surgery. You wouldn't.
I think if you didn't know, then maybe most people wouldn't. Wouldn't
No,
guess
that's what I'm saying.
correctly.
They'd be all beautiful and talented and blah blah blah, right?
Yeah.
Right,
Regardless of their pronoun.
Yeah, and regardless of their ID card.
Well, that's what I was reading as the stipulations is whatever gender you identify as on your KTP and your passport and your identity card and your passport. Those are the stipulations and regulations for being entered in as a contestant.
But it's not easy in Indonesia to change your sex on the ID.
That's what I was going to ask.
Yeah, so
Actually, what are the procedures for that?
Can you? I don't.
Do you need like a medical?
Then you gotta go to
certificate,
court.
or-
You gotta go to court, and the court can say no. You know,
Go to court. It's not a medical question. It's a legal question.
So you gotta have the way I understand it. You have to have the medical proof of that, and then you go to court to have it
Approved.
legalized, because
Okay.
what's legal in Indonesia was on your ID. You know, so once you get it, say that you're a woman now. Of course, you can enter. But then remember what the pageant organizer said. Within how you call it?
Indonesian customs and norms.
They can always say no there. You know, that's the sneaky way for them to say, yes, you can come with your ID, you get the court legalize you as a female, but you know what? We all know you were a male before, and we don't want any backlash from the society, so we're gonna say no. They can use
Of course, it's a private event. They can do what they want. You know, I wouldn't be surprised, and tell me if I'm wrong, if in previous pageants, there might have been a transgender contestant. I mean, who would have known, right?
That we didn't know
You think we
about?
could? I mean, would they? I guess they'd have to show their IDs, but
Yes.
they
Oh, you
could
mean from other countries?
no
not
from Indonesia.
No, it
Oh
would
no,
have been,
Indonesia you wouldn't
yeah.
have for sure.
You would have.
You wouldn't.
The way our
Anyone can get a
use-
false ID. I mean, that's
No,
you know.
but you have to use kartu keluarga as well. Can
Yeah.
show the family card. Indonesia has this family card,
okay.
which you were put immediately after birth, you know, and then it shows who your parents are, and then your sex, and that you can't change at birth, you know. So once there is, I think, discrepancy between the ID and the family card, then they would know immediately, even if you got like a fake ID.
I think if the new owner of the pageant hadn't raised that issue, it would not be an issue. If they just moved on and said, we're the new owners, let's continue as we have, then it wouldn't be talked about like we are, but gave us a topic to talk about. Okay, more Hot Indo is ahead. Speakeasy, Singapore's #1 in Asia. Where are we on the best English-speaking list?
Produk lokal memang handal, kreasi lokal memang spesial. Ayo beli buatan negeri, bangga sekali produk sendiri. Dari busana sampai kria, kuliner juga buatan kita. Ayo beli kreatif lokal, marilah beli produk kreatif lokal. Pejuang negeri, beli kreatif lokal, banggalah beli produk kreatif lokal.
Hello, this is Anggun and you're watching the Indonesia channel, hot programs, cool people.
I'm Caitlin Turner, and welcome to Yoga Bliss. Exhale, reaching down to triangle pose. Roll your knee out and up to the sky, breathing here.
Yoga Bliss, only on the Indonesia channel. This is the Indonesia channel.
You are watching iPop Playlist.
iPop on the Indonesia channel.
You're watching Hot Indonesia from Jakarta. Hot topic number 3, Speakeasy. The English Proficiency Index at EF.com is out with the list of the world's best English speakers. In Asia, number 1 is Singapore, no surprise, even though Malay is the official language there. At 2 and 3 are the Philippines and Malaysia. Guess where Indonesia is? At number 15, ahead of Afghanistan and just below Japan, which shows economic development is not a requirement for English. Now, first, Linda, clue me in, how much English, what is the English requirement in schools growing up? Is there?
Okay, if you're talking about the public schools, then starts at first year of junior high, which is class 7, year 7. And then goes all the way to the end of high school, which is class 12, I believe.
Oh, really? That long?
Yeah.
English classes?
Yeah, English classes. But then the difference between, I'll say, Malaysia and Singapore is that Malaysia, definitely Singapore, you actually use it for business and government business. You know, so you are, once you're out of your classroom, there will be opportunities to speak it, to practice it. It's not the case in Indonesia. It's just a class you attend, you have to pass, and sometimes you don't pass. And it's not one of those failing classes that if you don't pass it, then you can't go to a higher grade. You know, that's not the way it is. And that's the reason why a lot of Indonesians don't speak English very well. Those who go to good universities would have that on the first year mandatory English.
Especially if they go abroad, yeah.
No, but even in Indonesia, like I went to the Department of Economics, University of Indonesia. My school was modeled after business school in the US. So my textbooks start from semester 1, all English,
in English.
95% English. So yeah, you better know how to at least read English. So at least like schools like mine, we read English well. We don't probably speak it, but we understand. We can read, we can write in English.
Okay, so there is a basis for us having English, but we should be better.
Yeah, we don't have opportunities to do that.
Okay, practical use. Now,
yes.
Compared to, say, 20 years ago, Nina, is English spoken more now and better, or back then? I mean, how would you compare?
Of course more now, because one would hope, and I think it is, that our country is progressing and moving forward.
I'm not saying that English, to progress, you need English. I mean, countries who don't speak are perfectly fine. But anyway, go on.
Well, for business purposes, right? Especially international business purposes. But I think it is good to acknowledge that Indonesia is more than just Jakarta. So outside of Jakarta, outside of Java, there's the education is not the same. And the exposure that they have, even if they do learn English in school, the possibilities and opportunities that they have to practice it, to carry on speaking English outside of what they've learned in school is not there.
Yeah.
So I think, that is probably why we fall into the 15th place, is because if you take into the entire population of Indonesia, yes, the majority of us don't speak English and don't have exposure to that. Whereas Singapore, I mean, maybe their official language is Malay, but I think they actually I think English is actually the first language that they learn in school.
But you know, the big equalizer these days, I think, and we have to stop using an excuse going forward, is the internet. I mean, you could require classes anywhere in the world to watch 2 hours or 1 hour of English a day, which most people do, wasting time watching Netflix and blah, blah, blah. Not saying that it's a waste of time, but you know what I mean? The global language of English can be learned through online learning. And you know, the other way I learned different languages, which I should be better, but is karaoke. I mean, because you go and read the words, and you know, I know it's a silly thing.
No,
but anyway.
but if I may add to that, you are correct that internet and social media have opened doors for Indonesians to learn a better English. However, what I see is that because it's not taught academically, they're getting disenfranchised English. And they know how to say certain expressions because they've seen it on social media.
And often bad English.
And very bad English. But they don't know how to put a proper sentence, let alone writing a paragraph in proper English.
That's why, you know, having a global English instruction template, and then they send it to each country, that might be a business.
No, well, is it going to be British English or American English?
And another way to learn English is to watch this program.
Hey. Hopefully.
Come on. It is feedback time, and we like your feedback. More comments on the lack of headscarves on flight attendants on the flag carrier Garuda. Here in the world's most populous Muslim country, we're still talking about a hijab ban at a state-owned company. And Gaddafi added, other countries prioritize professionalism and work ethics, and here we are focusing on the uniform. Here's how to contact us with your feedback. Email at hotindo@theindonesiachannel.com or please comment through our Hot Indonesia or Indonesia channel, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube pages. Final words, Linda.
March is upon us, and it means for us tax season. Even though with the crazy scandal engulfing the tax office at the moment, they haven't said that we could file beyond March 31st. So gird your loins, people. Do your tax returns.
Final words, Nina.
Like Linda said, it is already March, and time flies so fast. So make sure to tell your loved ones that you love them, and your friends and all the people around you who support them, do something nice for them and give back.
And my final words, it's always amusing to me that those who constantly preach to you about their particular religion are often not the best examples. I don't doubt their words, I just watch their actions. And that is Hot Indonesia for this week. For Linda Ibrahim and Karenina Sunny, I'm Dalton Tanonaka. Thank you for watching. Please join us again next time.